Well, hey everybody. I think I'm live now, so we'll start talking and we'll wait for some people to jump on here. But welcome to April 14th. It's been one heck of a day. I don't even know how in the world it's already Wednesday, but it is. And so I promised yesterday, I said see you tomorrow yesterday, and here I am, you're seeing me. I will admit something for those of you jumping on here a little early. I will admit that when I said see you tomorrow, it was my intention with the whole see you tomorrow thing to actually get the lawsuit filed today. That was the intended purpose and objective that I had. And quite frankly, I thought that I would be done and have it filed by 4:30 when the Ocmulgee County Courthouse closed today. But as you can see, it is 8:55 p.m. I am clearly at my office, and I just got done finishing up the lawsuit against Metrc, or against the OMMA / Oklahoma Department of Health against Metrc. So this whole video is going to be about nothing but about the Metrc lawsuit, the lawsuit about Metrc seed to sale, the RFID tags, whatever you want to call it. That's what this video is going to be about. So please do me a favor, like and share this, get this out to the groups, send this all over the state. If you've got media outlets, let them know that we're filing this lawsuit in the morning. I will be at the Ocmulgee County Courthouse when they open in the morning to file this. In fact, right here, I've got my pleadings and my check ready to get to the courthouse and get that filed. By the way, in case you wanted to see, this is the Metrc lawsuit. This is the Metrc lawsuit. So this little beauty right here is the Metrc lawsuit that will be filed in the morning. It's also part of a lot of this is the Metrc contract, just so you know. But in terms of petitions, I will tell you it's a beefy petition. So this is not going to be a short video. I'm going to try to go through as much detail as I possibly can today, because I think tomorrow is going to be a crazy hectic day with media and stuff like that. So want to get as much stuff out as I possibly can with you guys today about this class action lawsuit. So let's start with what is this lawsuit. The first thing I need to explain to you, and I'm going to read you some stuff as we go along, but this is what is called a class action lawsuit. A class action lawsuit essentially says, hey, court, we are one small part of a massive group that is impacted by something that's going on, and we're seeking relief for everybody. So this lawsuit, while it only names 3 entities, for brevity's sake and for my sanity's sake, I only named 3 entities, all in Ocmulgee County, because they are a processor, a grower, and a dispensary, and they can represent all aspects of all businesses across the state because you all share common interests and things related to the Metrc contract, related to seed to sale, related to the OMMA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a class action lawsuit. So please understand, just because I didn't list 10,000 and some odd businesses on here, this is brought as a class action lawsuit seeking relief for every business. And I also want to point out that this isn't a lawsuit seeking relief for big businesses. It's not a lawsuit seeking relief for small businesses. This is a lawsuit seeking relief for freaking everybody in the state of Oklahoma that's a licensed medical marijuana business owner. So that's what we've got here. So it's a class action lawsuit, meaning we're incorporating and bringing in everybody. And again, you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to read some stuff to you. You know, I know there's going to be people that drop off because you don't want to hear all the stuff. But I am going to read some stuff to you because I think it's important for you guys kind of to understand the gist. But I do want to give you just some general things at the beginning for anybody that wants to jump on, jump off. I feel there's no guarantees in life other than death and taxes, right? We've all heard that expression many times. There's never a guarantee in court at all, ever. Even when you win, or even when you should win, you lose sometimes. Even when you should lose, you win sometimes. You never know what in the world a human being judge is going to do with a particular case. And look, judges get rulings wrong, in my opinion, all the daggum time. That's why we have appellate courts. That's why we don't have one court deciding all things and nobody else ever gets to look at it, because courts make mistakes. So there is no guarantee. I want to make that very clear. There's no guarantee that we are going to prevail on this. That said, the more I've worked on this, the more I've drafted this, the more that I've spoken to Christina Vaughn, my partner here at the law firm. I've spoken to Jackie Loney, one of our other attorneys. I've spoken to, Ryan, who helps me a lot. I've spoken to Wilson White, one of our other attorneys that started literally last week, Monday. We all feel really good about the content of this lawsuit, that we are on the right track, that we have very valid and good claims that should be something that a court understands and sides with us on. That said, again, there's no guarantee of that, but I feel really, really, really good that we have done the best job that we could possibly do to lay out our claims. And just so you know, our claims, this is, front and back, but just the claims, the individual stances of the lawsuit and the claims of the lawsuit is 26 pages. I wrote 26 pages of claims related to this, laying out what the claims are, why they are the way they are, and why I think we win this lawsuit. There will be a separate thing filed that is a brief that will be substantially longer because it will have lots of attachments and some other things. I mean, I've got OMMA posts. You've got things from the OKGov website talking about monies collected. I've got contracts. I've got statutes. I mean, all of these things are going to be exhibits to a motion that's going to be filed relatively soon, but I didn't attach them to the petition because, quite frankly, I didn't want a judge getting pissed off at me when I went bigger than what this one already is with that daggum Metrc contract attached. So we've got a pretty big lawsuit here, a lot of claims, a lot of things going on. Now, let me explain to you what I've done and how I've done it. And I'm gonna frankly explain to you some things that I've got concerns about. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these concerns out there now because you need to be watching and I'm gonna need your help on stuff. If you all will remember, back when cities started clamping down and started trying to enact all the ridiculous ordinances that they enacted when 788 passed, I filed that lawsuit against the city of Broken Arrow, and that injunction that I got against Broken Arrow, we used all over the state to stop cities from doing all kinds of crazy things. To me, I really firmly believe it's what really, it was a sort of a match that lit the fire under the Oklahoma medical marijuana program because we didn't have these cities enacting all these ridiculous, crazy ordinances because we had that injunction in the Broken Arrow case. What you may not remember, and believe me, I remember, is I won that case because when I argued that case, the law was what the law was. And normally we don't retroactively apply law in this country, but they figured out a way to fuck me over on that lawsuit by changing definitions. So what happened was we win the lawsuit essentially. The Oklahoma legislature comes back into session. They pass House Bill 2612, among other things, and change some of the definitions and terms and grant authority for cities to do certain things. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that that applied retroactively. So in other words, those definition changes applied backwards. They said the Oklahoma legislature can define words, and those definitions apply back to the first time those words were ever used. I thought it was ridiculous because the Oklahoma legislature didn't pass 788, the people did, but that's what happened with the Oklahoma Supreme Court. I want to point out here, we have the same potential risk. When I file this lawsuit, if we are able to get an injunction against the state of Oklahoma from implementing the Metrc seed to sale tracking program and the RFID tags, the Oklahoma legislature could still try to screw us all. So you are all going to need to make darn sure that you hold the Oklahoma legislature accountable and we don't let them screw over Oklahoma businesses by doing now what they should have been dealing with for 2 years, because that is something I am deathly afraid of. So when it comes to why did I wait to file this lawsuit so long, sine die, which is the end of the legislative session, it has to occur by the end of May. Word I have is sine die is kind of probably going to occur some kind of time mid-May. And based on history, I think that looks to be an accurate date. So I think the legislature is going to be out of there by mid-May. So I wanted to be as close to mid-May as I possibly could be while still getting this done before everything went into effect May 1st and you had to have all your stuff in by the end of this month. So that's why I've timed this lawsuit. So all those people that were out there banging me against the head, I have reasons for why I do things. I like to think most of the time I act like a rational, fairly intelligent human being. And so I think things through. I think about all of these things. And that's why I've timed this lawsuit to when I've timed it. So let me explain to you what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to go to the court and I'm going to file this lawsuit. And then I'm going to go talk to the judge's clerk. And I'm going to explain to the judge's clerk that I don't want what's called an emergency ex parte injunctive relief. What that essentially means is emergency meaning it's an emergency, ex parte meaning without the other side present. We're allowed to do that in the law. We're allowed to go into court with a pleading and get a court to sign an ex parte emergency injunction. It happens. In a situation as big as this, I felt like and feel like asking a court to do that to stop a seed-to-sale tracking program in the entire state of Oklahoma would not go over very well. The judge would be reluctant to do that. They'd want to provide an opportunity for the OMMA and the Oklahoma Department of Health to respond. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and say, hey, look, court, I'm entitled to emergency relief. I need an emergency injunction. However, instead of asking the court to look at it ex parte, again, without the other side present, I'm going to ask the court to set this sometime before April 31st, the last day of April, the first day of May, when you're supposed to be doing this stuff. And I'm doing that so that we can give OMMA and Oklahoma Department of Health opportunity to come, show up, and respond. And that way we can argue all of this and have what's called a show cause hearing all at the same time. So the court that day will decide whether we get our emergency injunction or we don't get an emergency injunction. We'll have some finality there. Now let me explain something to you about emergency injunctions. In a civil case, the standard of evidence is what's called preponderance of the evidence. To get an injunction, the standard of evidence is called clear and convincing evidence. Clear and convincing evidence is higher than the standard it's going to take us to win this lawsuit. So we've got a hard road to hoe to get to an emergency injunction. Again, I feel really good that the law is on our side in this particular instance and that we are entitled to the emergency injunction that we're going to be seeking. I firmly believe that is the case. But that evidentiary standard is really high and it's hard to meet. And in fact, it's higher than, like I said, than the standard we're going to have to meet to win the whole damn thing. We have to have a higher standard on an emergency injunction. So I'm going to come out of retirement and I'm going to present this one. This will be the only time, this is the last time I'm going to court because my doctor is going to kill me. My wife, when she sees this, is going to kill me. But I'm going to come out of retirement and I'm going to argue this injunction on that day, okay? It's going to be the last time I do it because my heart just won't hold out very well for it, but I'm going to do it this time, and that's it. So what's going to happen is the court is going to set it for emergency injunction hearing. I will know what that date is. As soon as I have that date, I'm going to tell you. Because again, remember, this lawsuit is on behalf of these individually named plaintiffs and everybody else. So I'm going to ask two things of you once I file this lawsuit. One, I'm going to ask when the court sets this for emergency injunction and any other time this court sets this matter for any hearing, I'm going to ask that you show up. If you are a licensed medical marijuana business in the state of Oklahoma, this lawsuit is for you. You've all said you want it. So now what I'm telling you is if I can show up, you better darn well show up. Okay? We've got to show up and let the court know that this is a serious issue, that there are 10,000 some odd licensed businesses. It's a billion-dollar industry. It's tens of thousands of employees impacted by this lawsuit and by what's going on. And we've got to show up in Okmulgee County and let that judge, that court know that we all stand unified together against the absurdity of this Metrc contract. That's the first thing I'm going to ask of you. The second thing I'm going to ask of you is something I've already told you I was going to ask of you. I'm going to, my client has agreed, they're going to set up a GoFundMe account to pay for all the legal work that's going to be needed on this. Today you had, just today, you had me, Christina Vaughn, Jackie Loney, Wilson White, and a paralegal Rachel and Ryan all working on this case. This was all today, almost all day. This is what we're working on. I've explained to you before, we can't work for free. So the GoFundMe account is going to be set up by our client. They're going to raise money to pay bills for this. As I committed previously, I'm doing this for free personally. My time, $0. Won't be a bill from me. But everybody else deserves to be paid. My employees deserve to get paid. And honestly, I don't need to pay for their expenses working on a lawsuit that's helping out all these people. So we're going to set up a GoFundMe account. So I'm asking, the second thing, for you to put your money where your mouth is on this. So show up, donate. That's what we're going to be asking for in this. I'd also like to include some other some other law firms in this as we move forward, and I might actually include some other law firms in this case, but I haven't had a chance to send them out because all this has kind of happened really quick when I got word yesterday late that OMMA was not going to pony up any money to pay for these tags or take any action to do anything. So I got that late last night, and I've been working hard and fast to try to get this done since then. So that's why I've been here for, I don't even know how many freaking hours I've been here right now. But anyway, so that's what's going on. We're filing this tomorrow in Okmulgee County. There's no reason for you to show up. It will be lackluster fanfare. If for some reason you want to show up, Google the Okmulgee County Courthouse on OSC or whatever. Find out what time they open. You'll see me there, and I will be there with my check and my pleadings to get it filed and get that done. So that's what's happening tomorrow, Okmulgee County. Now, a couple of things about Okmulgee County. When we show up to court, I want to remind everybody, and I'll remind you again, we have to dress nice. It's court, people. Please, 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 if you show up at any of these hearings, you have to dress in your Sunday Easter best. Yeah, whatever you call that, please, wear what you can. And to use a line from Remember the Titans, if you don't have a suit, borrow one. If you don't have an old man to borrow one from, get it from a bum, because they look better. You got to wear nice clothes to court, okay? It's very, very important that we set the right image and tone for the judge, as I know you all will. So please make sure you do that. So, all right, let's get into this. Let's start talking about what's going on with this lawsuit and what we're kind of asking for and how it's broken down. And by the way, again, please like and share. Get the word out. Help me get the word out. I'm not going to be checking the comments as this goes on. I don't have the focus, the time, the energy, or whatever. I'd like to go eat dinner and stuff as soon as I can. So, okay. Anyway, we'll go through this. I'm going to read you a few things. 1, this is a class action that 1, seeks declaratory judgment as outlined herein, and 2, seeks emergency and permanent injunctive relief as requested herein. So I want to point out we're seeking an emergency injunction to go into effect immediately, but we're also seeking a permanent injunction. And then I said, the following questions of law and fact are common to each proposed class member. You're all, if you're a licensed business, a proposed class member, and predominate over questions that may affect individual class members and include, among others, A, whether OSDH, that's the Oklahoma Department of Health, violated the Oklahoma Administrative Procedures Act by not properly adopting regulations and by adopting regulations in excess of its statutory authority related to implementation of a medical marijuana seed to sale program. B, whether the contract between OSDH/OMMA and Metrc constitutes an unlawful tax. C, whether OSDH/OMMA improperly used and continues to improperly use taxes collected from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Program. D, whether OSDH/OMMA is properly allocating tax revenue it receives from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Program. E, whether the contract between OSDH/OMMA and Metrc constitutes the creation of an unlawful monopoly. F, whether OSDH/OMMA violated the due process clause of the Oklahoma Constitution by forcing licensees to accept/pay for the Metrc seed to sale system. And G, whether the contract between OSDH and OMMA and Metrc forbids Metrc from charging Oklahoma businesses shipping costs related to the purchase of RFID tags from Metrc. Those are the things that we're asking the court to make a decision about. It is our position that in every one of those instances, OMMA has violated the law, violated regulations, acted outside of its authority related to the Administrative Procedure Act, application of taxes collected, allocation of Metrc expenses to businesses. It's our position that we win on every single one of those positions. So we didn't attack it one place. We attacked it all of those places. And we believe in our position that we are right in every single one of those things and that they did commit those acts and engage in those behaviors. Again, getting back to class, and I'm skipping some stuff, but a class action pursuant to 12 OS Section 2023 is proper due to the fact that 1, plaintiffs or businesses licensed by OSDH and OMMA pursuant to 63 OS Section 420 et sec, hereinafter the Act, and thus impacted by the matters addressed herein. That's, by the way, the medical marijuana statutes. 2, there are more than 10,000 businesses licensed pursuant to the Act. 3, there are questions of law and fact common to all class members. 4, the claims and defenses of the representative parties are typical of the claims and defenses of the class. And 5, the representative parties were fairly and adequately protect the interests of the class. And then we name in the lawsuit State of Oklahoma ex rel, which means essentially by and through the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, a division of the Oklahoma State Department of Health. So that's how the case is styled. That is who it's filed against. Pointing out, this case is against the Department of Health / OMMA. Metrc is not a party to this lawsuit. Why is that? Because the state is the one that had the obligations to do certain things here, not Metrc. The fact that the state screwed up and signed a contract with Metrc is not Metrc's fault. This was the obligations of the state. This is where OMMA exceeded authority, OMES exceeded authority, the state of Oklahoma exceeded authority and has misused things. This has nothing to do with Metrc. Now let me give you a little short preview. Something else coming related to just Metrc alone, but that's for a different day and a different lawsuit. So I got that coming, but I'm doing that as a separate lawsuit in a separate court. So that's coming. That's coming very soon, but not the same case. So we want to file that case in federal court. So we'll be over in federal court on that one. All right. And then what happens next is it kind of goes into the breakdown of sort of the facts and history of what's going on. So kind of just skipping through the facts. You guys know the facts. I'll read a few of these. For dispensaries, the Oklahoma legislature mandated only that, quote, retailers will be required to complete a monthly sales report to the Oklahoma State Department of Health. That's actually statute. It's Title 63 OS 421 subsection C. So it says, and I'm going to read that again, retailers will be required to complete a monthly sales report to the Oklahoma Department of Health. Does that say have Metrc? Does that say have RFID tags? Does it say have packaging tags? Does it say have any of that stuff? No, it doesn't say that. That's section 60 or Title 63, 421, section C, subsection C. And then it goes on to say nothing in Oklahoma statute requires or directs any medical marijuana dispensary to engage in or participate in any specific seed to sale system. 28. Nothing in Oklahoma statute requires or directs any medical marijuana dispensary to purchase or use RFID tags or other systems to track inventory and sales. 29. For growers, the Oklahoma legislature mandated only that, quote, a licensed commercial grower will be required to complete a monthly yield and sales report to the Oklahoma Department of Health. It goes on to say the Oklahoma State Department of Health, will have auditing responsibilities to ensure that all marijuana being grown is accounted for. That's important because that's who has the responsibility for auditing and accounting for all this stuff, not individual licensed businesses. They put that on the Oklahoma State Department of Health. They're just trying to pass the buck to all of you, and then they're trying to pass the expenses. We're going to get to that in a minute. Paragraph 30. Nothing in Oklahoma statute requires or directs any medical marijuana grower to engage in or participate in any specific seed to sale system, because that's true. 31. Nothing in Oklahoma statute requires or directs any medical marijuana grower to purchase or use RFID tags or other systems to track plants or products. That's true. 32. The auditing responsibility of grower reports and accountability of marijuana being grown in Oklahoma is placed squarely and solely in the hands of the OMMA by the Oklahoma legislature. 33. The Oklahoma legislature, using express language, clearly set the policy that it shall be the responsibility of OSDH/OMMA and not individual licensed growers to review and audit reports filed by licensed businesses as the agency deems necessary. Then, when it comes to processors, I said, for processors, the Oklahoma legislature mandated only that, and this is a quote, processors will be required to complete a monthly yield and sales report to the Oklahoma State Department of Health. It goes on to again say, just like it did for growers, the Oklahoma State Department of Health will have oversight and auditing responsibilities to ensure that all marijuana being grown is accounted for. They have the responsibility, not the businesses. Again, they're trying to pass the buck. Keep going. Nothing in the Oklahoma statute requires or directs any medical marijuana processor to engage in or participate in any specific seed to sale tracking program, because it doesn't. The auditing responsibility of processor reports and accountability of marijuana being processed in Oklahoma is placed squarely and solely in the hands of the OKDH/OMMA by the Oklahoma legislature. Again, that's true. And all of these are true about growers, processors, and dispensaries, including other businesses like labs, etc., which I didn't really address in as much detail because there's not nearly as many of you guys, and it was kind of redundant at that point. I was tired of saying the same thing. 38. The Oklahoma legislature, using express language, clearly set the policy that it shall be the responsibility of OSDH and OMMA and not individually licensed processors to review and audit reports filed by licensed businesses as the agency deems necessary. And then it going down, it says OSDH is also tasked with having, quote, oversight and auditing responsibilities that all marijuana being grown in Oklahoma is accounted for and shall implement an inventory tracking system. They shall implement an inventory tracking system. Then it keeps going. According to the legislature, quote, the inventory tracking system licensees use shall allow for integration of other seed-to-sale systems. Let's listen to that again, OMMA. According to the legislature, quote, the inventory tracking system licensees use shall allow for integration of other seed-to-sale systems. It's Title 63, Oklahoma Statute, Section 427.13, subsection B, subsection 2. That is the requirement there, folks. That's what's supposed to be going on. The Metrc system does not integrate with these other programs. Integrate, the way it is used in the context, is to allow a business to essentially use one seed-to-sale system and put all that information in the Metrc system so that OMMA has it in the form that they want. That's not what's happening here because they're requiring that you use Metrc's tags and Metrc's system. That's not integration. You are having to utilize the separate system. That is clearly a violation of existing Oklahoma law on the subject. So that's a problem, I think, for them. Let's see. Keep going. Medical marijuana businesses in Oklahoma are required to, quote, use a seed-to-sale tracking system or integrate its own seed-to-sale tracking system with the seed-to-sale tracking system established by the authority. That's an important one because there's an or there. So they have to allow for one or the other. It's not an and, it's or. So they have to allow for either use a seed-to-sale tracking system or integrate its own seed-to-sale tracking system with the seed-to-sale tracking system established by the authority. And most of you guys, because OMMA told you to, I told you to, are already using your own seed-to-sale tracking program. To me, that means you've complied with the first section. It says you can do that, or you can do something that integrates with the state. It doesn't say you have to do both. And that's where they're making a huge mistake, and that's where I'm going to nail their asses. Nothing in the Oklahoma statute requires any medical marijuana business to use the seed-to-sale system selected by the state to carry out its auditing responsibilities, and certainly nothing in Oklahoma statute requires those companies to purchase RFID tags and pay monthly service fees to a company selected by OSDH/OMMA to carry out its auditing responsibilities. Nothing in Oklahoma law authorizes the OMMA to pass any costs related to its auditing and oversight obligations on to any medical marijuana business. That's an important one. Nothing in state law or in any of the regulations adopted by the Department of Health authorizes them to pass on costs to you. Doesn't exist. And at the end of the day, the fundamental thing that I constantly keep inside and up here is the patients eat these costs. These aren't, yes, businesses pay them up front, but businesses in Oklahoma, we already have some of the lowest profit margins of any other state because of our open market. Those costs are going to be passed on to patients. Patients are already paying 7% excise tax to cover the regulatory things of the state agency. They're already paying the tax to cover seed to sale. OMMA is trying to double dip. The Department of Health is trying to double dip. We've got to stop it. That's what this lawsuit is about. Keep going. Nothing in Oklahoma law authorizes the OMMA to pass any costs related to its auditing and oversight obligations on to any medical marijuana business. 46. Nothing in Oklahoma law authorizes the OMMA to pass any costs related to seed-to-sale system selected by OSDH/OMMA on to any medical marijuana businesses. Then I go through a section related to what seed-to-sale, what it is, the highlights. I'll give you just a couple. Something I wrote, nothing in any OSDH/OMMA regulation requires any Oklahoma medical marijuana business to, 1, participate in any Metrc training courses, because that's not in any regulation or statute, 2, on board with Metrc. That's not in any statutes or regulations. 3, pay Metrc a $40 monthly fee. 4, pay Metrc 45 cents per plant tag. 5, pay Metrc 25 cents per package tag. 6, hire additional staff to carry out the activities related to tracking all packages and plants. Or 7, engage in any activities related to uploading any information to Metrc. So there's no state law that tells you to do any of that stuff. There's no regulation that tells you to do any of that stuff. And I'm going to get to this in a second, but I'm going to point this out right now. OMMA hasn't adopted any regulations. There's no regulations that have been adopted. And we're going to get to a fun little section in a little bit because I have a feeling about something that's going to happen. What's going to happen is OMMA's going to try to rush out some emergency regulations. Well, let me wave at you, OMMA, and let me just tell you this little tidbit of information about emergency regulations. In the Administrative Procedure Act, there's a requirement that in order to enact emergency regulations, there has to exist an actual fucking emergency. And you signed the Metrc contract 7 months ago. You could have followed the Administrative Procedure Act and adopted regulations 7 months ago. You could have adopted some regulations. So we could have been dealing with this for 7 months. So an emergency does not exist under the Administrative Procedure Act to get emergency regulations done, and I will fight like hell to stop emergency regulations. It's my position that they have to open them up for public comment. They have to have a hearing. They have to adopt these through the formal Administrative Procedure Act requirement because there's 7 months have passed since that contract has been entered. Oh, and let's add one more thing. It's been 7 months since that contract has been entered. It's been 2 years since House Bill 2612 passed the Oklahoma legislature. Thank you, COVID, for getting us an extra year. It's been 2 years since that passed, which adopts the seed-to-sale tracking program that they're trying to implement. 2 years. So I don't think you can argue that an emergency exists that you couldn't have planned for ahead of time because you've had all this time, you've had the contract, and there's been no regulations adopted, and I don't know where the hell or whenever we're going to get regulations. What we've had is regulation by press release, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. And dear God, there's still 417 of you watching. I'll keep running my mouth and going into detail since there's still so many of you watching. And by the way, I don't know what these stars are to show support, but I've earned 244 of them, apparently. Anyway. Okay, keep going. Nothing in Oklahoma, OSDH, I already read that one, sorry. 53, that's what I want to do. Give me just a second, sorry folks. Okay, I'm just going to read you this section. It's titled State of Oklahoma Contract with Metrc for Seed-to-Sale Tracking by OSDH. 53. On September 18, 2020, the State of Oklahoma, by and through the Office of Management and Enterprise Services, OMMS, entered into a contract with Metrc LLC, Metrc, for the purpose of providing a supplier-hosted cannabis inventory tracking solution, also called Seed-to-Sale, to assist OMMA in monitoring the cannabis supply chain life cycle statewide. According to the OMMA, in order for its selected system to work, all medical marijuana businesses in the state of Oklahoma must attach some form of tag, such as a barcode label, RFID, which is a radio frequency identification tag, to each plant and every product they produce. Each tag, and thus plant or product, is then associated with a unique identifier numbered in the state's database. 55. The final, and these are, when I say a number, it's the paragraph. 55 is the paragraph. There's 100 and something of them. The final and best offer sheet of the contract calls for OMMA to pay Metrc only $5,000 in the first year of the contract. That's right, you heard that. $5,000 is what the state of Oklahoma pays in the first year of the contract. Why? Because they're passing on all the fucking cost to you. But wait a minute. It's not like they pick up any more costs as they move forward. In years 2 through 10, OMMA would pay Metrc $40,000 per year. See Metrc contract attached here too as Exhibit 1. That's why this damn thing is so damn big. 56. The contract between OSDH/OMMA and Metrc also allows Metrc to directly charge the 10,587 Oklahoma licensees a reporting fee of $40 per month per license. Metrc stands to gain $5,081,760 per year in monthly service subscription fees alone. That's right, $5,081,000 in the $40 monthly fee alone is what Metrc is getting for that. And yet they provide that shitty customer service that they've been providing and charging those ridiculous fees for shipping. 57. OMMA also contracted to allow Metrc to directly charge the 10,587 independent licensees 45 cents for each individual RFID plant tag and 25 cents for each individual RFID package tag. 58. In the final and best offer sheet, Metrc stated an estimate average cost per Oklahoma licensee of $705 per year for the plant and product tags. Based on Metrc's incredibly conservative and likely fraudulent estimations, it stands to receive $7,463,835 in tag sales alone each year. That's $7,463,835 based on its estimate of only $705 per licensee each year. $7.5 million every freaking year on top of the $5 million. This is not in there. I'm expanding upon the argument. On top of the $5,081,000 already. Paragraph 59. According to Metrc's own calculations, the OMMA contracted to allow Metrc to directly charge Oklahoma independent licensees for the monthly reporting fee and plant and product tags in an amount totaling more than $12,545,595 per year. That's right, folks. At a minimum, based on their ridiculously low estimates, we're going to be sending $12.5 million of Oklahoma patient money to Florida, which is where Metrc is operating out of and centralized in. That's right, $12.5 million to Florida without any legislative action to authorize it, without any authority to do so, without any single regulation directing any business what to do in this process, without getting authorization from the governor on those regulations. $12.5 million that OMES and Metrc are sending to the fucking state of Florida without due process of law in the state of Oklahoma, and that's a problem. Paragraph 60. The initial seed to sale contract term was for a period of 1 year. There are 9 one-year options to renew the contract. Next section. This is OSDH rulemaking concerning Metrc. This is an important part. On September 18th, 2020, nearly 7 months ago, OMMA announced on Facebook and Twitter that it had signed a contract with Metrc for implementation of a statewide seed to sale tracking program. I was talking about that earlier. 62. Despite the fact that the contract was signed and announced 7 months ago, OSDH and OMMA has not adopted any regulations to direct businesses in the manner in which the agency expects businesses to use the state-selected seed to sale program. I brought this up to them. I've told them about this. I've been screaming about this, and nothing's happened. So here we are. We're at a lawsuit. And again, I want to point out, I did everything I could do to try to avoid a lawsuit. I had that meeting with OMMA. Let me just tell you, we had a great meeting, I thought, and they didn't even bother to get back to us. That's right, they freaking dropped the damn ball again. Didn't even bother to get back to any of us. So that's on them. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. I don't know. I mean, a little common fucking courtesy would have said you pick up the phone and say, hey, these people are trying to like keep from knocking the whole seed to sale tracking program out of the state of Oklahoma, trying to work with them to come up with something and don't get a response. So I don't know what else to do. I've always maintained the position that I'd like to work with them as opposed to against them, but when you don't follow up, when you don't get back, you don't leave any choices. And I'm not somebody to just, take being ignored very well. I respond. I take action. I do what I say I'm going to do. And I said I was going to file this if we didn't figure out a solution. So here I am filing it. So anyway, keep going. On October 30th, 2020, OSDH/OMMA posted on its Twitter account an FAQ asking, quote, how much will it cost for the system, unquote. The response listed prices for Metrc and stated, quote, there are no hidden fees or large one-time costs to use Metrc. Tell that to the person that's got 50,000 outdoor plants about no one-time cost to use Metrc. The post contained a link directing consumers to the Metrc website. 64. On November 3rd and November 20th, 2020, OSDH/OMMA posted on its Facebook account that the Metrc team would be hosting an introductory presentation with information about, quote, the benefits of operating within our track and trace system, and included a link to the Metrc website. I'm pointing out all these OMMA posts. You'll understand why in a minute. I'm talking about this because The only guidance that we have, as opposed to them being in regulation where they should be, or in statute where it should be, all we have are Facebook and Twitter posts by the OMMA directing you to do things that aren't supported by regulation or statute. That's a problem, folks. That's a problem, OMMA. If you don't realize that, God help you. 65. On November 4, 2020, OSDA/OMMA uploaded a post on its Twitter account with the following, quote, "Does Metrc understand the medical marijuana industry? Question mark. Yes. Metrc provides its track and trace solution for 13 other states and the District of Columbia and has been providing supply chain solutions since 1993. The post included a link directing consumers to the Metrc website. 65. On February 23rd, 2021, OMMA uploaded a post to its Facebook account stating the following, quote, "Seed to sale timeline, period. Training is mandatory. Scheduled training now at," and provided a link, along with a photograph of a timeline reflecting that inventory must be in the Metrc system by April 30th, 2021. Again, rulemaking by press release. 67. On March 3rd, 2021, OMMA uploaded a post to its Facebook and Twitter accounts stating, quote, "Don't get caught off guard. Check out the Metrc timeline and sign up for training." The post included a link directing consumers to the Metrc website. 68. On March 17th, 2021, OMMA uploaded a post to its Facebook account for a seed to sale sign-up reminder, including a photograph of a seed to sale timeline reflecting that inventory must be in the Metrc system by April 30th, 2021. 69. On March 24th, 2021, OMMA uploaded a post to its Facebook and Twitter account stating, quote, "Timing is everything, exclamation point. OMMA licensees need to be trained and credentialed in Metrc before they can put their inventory info into the system." On April 5th, 2021, OMMA uploaded a post to its Facebook account stating, quote, "All OMMA businesses are required to be fully operational in the Metrc system by the April 30th deadline." The post also contained a photograph of an amended seed to sale timeline reflecting that inventory must be in the Metrc system by April 30th, 2021. The photograph displayed text stating, quote, "All inventory and transactions must be tracked in Metrc by April 30th. And, quote, "Businesses must complete Metrc training and credentialing prior to entering inventory," unquote. Paragraph 71. The OMMA website contains a seed to sale page. The only seed to sale company listed on that page is Metrc. There is no mention of the ability of a third-party tracking company to integrate with Metrc on that page. The page includes the following statements, quote, "Over the next few months, businesses will be trained on the use of a system, begin using Metrc plant and package tags, and use the Metrc system to track inventory, transfers, and sales. The Metrc system will replace the mandatory monthly reports businesses have been sending to OMMA." Well, that's not in any regulation, and that's certainly not in any statute. So we'd love to know where that came from. Again, it's regulating by press release, and we're going to get into why I keep saying by press release in a minute. 72. According to Metrc, who set up a site specifically for implementation of OSDH seed to sale in Oklahoma, when it relates to use of Metrc in Oklahoma, this is off of Metrc's website. This is funny. Question, do I have to use Metrc? What if I want to use my own inventory control system? Answer, you must use Metrc to track your marijuana. A licensee can input sales data directly into Metrc through the user interface, but licensees who prefer to use third-party POS providers using the Metrc application program interface or uploading comma-separated values files will be able to do so. Metrc will provide an API key to customers who wish to use a third-party inventory management system. Each licensee is responsible for ensuring their ability to interface with the state-procured system. This is important. All licensees will be required to use the tags supplied by Metrc. That's not fucking integration, folks. It's not. Licensees without a third-party POS system may opt to input sales directly into Metrc. Where's that option? Anybody seen that? Anybody seen an option where you don't have to use tags and can just implement or integrate your system with theirs on how you're doing it, your tags, whatever? No. Why? Because it doesn't exist. Why? Because there is no integration of existing seed to sale tracking programs with Metrc. They're simply uploading some of your information into Metrc so you can save some time, but you still have to use the Metrc system. That's not integration. That's use of. I don't know. The English language is not that complicated. 73. Each of the aforementioned posts by OSDH/OMMA constitute rulemaking by OSDH/OMMA using press releases in violation of the Oklahoma Administrative Procedure Act. Next little subsection, statutes related to costs incurred for seed to sale. This is important too. And this is all important. I'm going to stop saying that. Pursuant to Title 63 OS Section 426, State Question 788 tax, essentially, the tax on retail marijuana sales will be established at 7% of the gross amount received by the seller. We all know that is the 7% excise. According to 63 OS Section 426B, quote, tax proceeds will be applied primarily to finance the regulatory office. Okay. 76. OSDH/OMMA has failed to apply taxes generated to finance the regulatory office, including but not limited to OSDH/OMMA's obligation to audit the monthly reporting by Oklahoma medical marijuana growers, processors, and dispensaries. My point is, that section, that excise tax, is directed to be used to finance the regulatory office. It is the obligation of the regulatory office to track and trace this marijuana in the state of Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma Department of Health, OMMA's responsibility to do that, and they're supposed to use the 7% to pay for what they're supposed to do. What are they doing? Trying to pass it on to you. Why? I've got some guesses. We're going to get to those guesses here in a little bit. Paragraph 84. Pursuant to the Oklahoma Administrative Procedure Act, quote, no agency rule is valid or effective against any person or party or may be invoked by the agency for any purpose until it has been promulgated as required via the Oklahoma Administrative Procedure Act. That's right. These press releases are not valid until they've been promulgated into rules, and that hasn't happened. 85, the press release, and again, I don't know why I keep interrupting myself to say things. I said it in here already. 85, the press release directives by OSDH/OMMA related to Metrc constitute improperly adopted agency rules in violation of Section 250.3, subsection 17F of the Oklahoma Administrative Procedure Act. 86. Even if OSDH adopted regulations pursuant to the Oklahoma Administrative Procedures Act that contained the same directives as those in the press releases addressed above, such regulations would clearly exceed the authority granted to the Oklahoma State Department of Health by the Oklahoma legislature. What that means is this. One, I'm saying that they didn't adopt these things properly. Then I'm saying, even if they adopted these things through the Administrative Procedure Act, I'm about to lay out why even if they followed those rules, they don't have the authority to do it. So even if they follow the right procedure, they still lack the authority, which means they're still invalid. So that's what this next little part is going to be about. The Oklahoma legislature did not authorize OSDH to adopt regulations authorizing them to establish a single seed-to-sale program for use by all Oklahoma medical marijuana businesses, because they didn't. 88, the Oklahoma legislature did not authorize OSDH to adopt regulations passing along the costs of the OSDH seed-to-sale tracking program to Oklahoma medical marijuana businesses, because they didn't pass that cost along to you because there's a 7% excise tax and you're paying $2,500 for every license every year to the OMMA for covering costs of its agency. 89, the Oklahoma legislature did not authorize OSDH to require all medical marijuana plants grown in the state of Oklahoma to contain a Metrc RFID tag, or any other tag for that matter. 90, the Oklahoma legislature did not authorize OSDH to require all medical marijuana products created in the state contain a Metrc RFID tag, because they didn't. 91, the requirements now mandated by OSDH exceed the legislative requirements placed on Oklahoma growers who are only required to complete a monthly yield and sales report. Again, Title 63, Section 422, subsection C. 99, specifically, the OSDH used the word or when it noted that businesses can use their own seed-to-sale program or, quote, a seed-to-sale tracking system that integrates with the department-established system at the time of its implementation. That's in the Oklahoma Department of Health Regs 310:681-5-6, subsection D, if you want to find that. 310:681-5-6, subsection D. Paragraph 100. As the seed-to-sale contract is effective May 1st, 2021, no time exists for any of the licensees to be informed of the possible rules and requirements that OMMA may contemplate. Going back to the fact of why haven't we got any dadgum regulations on this to lay out what this seed-to-sale tracking program is and what they expect of people? Because one of the things I think is the biggest problem is that people, there's uncertainty. We don't know what people ask me questions all the time. Like, what are we supposed to do on this? What are we supposed to do on that? I don't know. Why don't I know? Because I don't have any regulations to go off of, which is how an agency tells people what to do. We don't have that. So as a lawyer, you ask me what to do. Fuck if I know. I don't know. because they haven't done what they're supposed to do. And yeah, I know I'm being hard on OMMA here because I'm putting responsibility squarely in their lap for just going along with this. Because there's some provisions in the contract that would allow them to cancel it and get out of it, but they're not going to do that. And so I'm putting this on them because they're not taking any action to fix the fucking problem. And so it is their fault, and they didn't bother to return a meeting promises. They said they'd get into it and look into it and get back to us, and they didn't freaking do that. And I'm sorry, but now I'm calling you out. Time to stop playing nice. If you're not gonna take responsibility and take action, OMMA, then at some point somebody's got to do something. And if I've got to be the asshole, I sign up for that all the time. Paragraph 102, and these are some important things. Plaintiffs here, and these are what we're asking for. Okay, this is important stuff. This is what we want as plaintiffs. You all, it's a class. Remember, class action lawsuit. Plaintiffs, everybody that is an OMMA licensed business subject to these damn tags. This is what we're asking for. Plaintiffs hereby request and are entitled to declaratory judgment that any attempt by OSDH to now adopt regulations does not constitute an emergency, as the Metrc contract was executed more than 7 months ago. 103. Plaintiffs hereby request and are entitled to declaratory judgment that any attempt by the Oklahoma Department of Health to now adopt regulations must follow the normal procedures of the Oklahoma Administrative Procedure Act, excluding those procedures which allow for emergency adoption. 104. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that no Oklahoma law requires them to purchase or use the Metrc system or Metrc RFID tags. 105. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that no Oklahoma State Department of Health statute or regulation requires them to purchase or use the Metrc system at a cost of $40 per month per licensee. 106. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that no Oklahoma State Department of Health statute or regulation requires the businesses to purchase and use RFID tags from Metrc at the cost of 45 cents per tag, per plant tag, and 25 cents per package tag. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that reporting obligations consist of monthly reports that must be filed with OSDH, and that such reports are not synonymous with using the Metrc system. 108. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that any requirement by OSDH to force businesses to use Metrc exceeds the legislative authority granted OSDH. 109. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that even if OSDH is authorized to require Oklahoma businesses to use Metrc, so even if they can require you to use Metrc, OSDH lacks the authority to require any Oklahoma business to pay Metrc for its service or pay Metrc for any RFID tags. 110. Plaintiffs are entitled to declaratory judgment that even if OSDH is authorized to require Oklahoma businesses to use Metrc tags and the Metrc system, it is the responsibility of OSDH/OMMA to supply all tags and labor required to affix all tags to all plants and products in the state of Oklahoma, because it's their responsibility to track and trace all this stuff. It's their responsibility then, if they want to use these damn tags, to do it that way by putting the tags on whatever they want to put them on. Come on, OMMA, put the tags on whatever you want to. You pay for them and you do it. That's what we're saying there. Count 2, this is my second claim. That was the first claim was for declaratory judgment. My second count, and I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff because I'm just tired of reading. Count 2 is declaratory relief. The Metrc contract constitutes an unlawful tax, and OSDH/OMMA is improperly using taxes collected. Oh no, this is a fun section. I'm going to read this one because it's about taxes and money. I'm going to read this one. I'm going to read that count 2 again. Declaratory relief. The Metrc contract constitutes an unlawful tax, and OSDH/OMMA is improperly utilizing taxes collected. Paragraph 112. Plaintiffs seek declaratory judgment in accordance with Title 12 because there's an actual justiciable controversy. 113. According to Article 10, Section 19 of the Oklahoma Constitution, quote, every act enacted by the legislature levying a tax shall specify distinctly the purpose for which said tax is levied, and no tax levied and collected for one purpose shall ever be devoted to another purpose. 114. Article 10, Section 5A of the Oklahoma Constitution further provides that the power of taxation shall never be surrendered, suspended, or contracted away, like they did with the Metrc contract, because that's a tax. 115. Only the legislature has the, quote, power to provide for the levy and collection of license and franchise taxes or other specific taxes. That's Oklahoma Constitution, Article 10, Section 12. 116. The Oklahoma legislature set the license fee for all Oklahoma medical marijuana businesses at $2,500 per annum. 117. Additionally, Section 426 provides for a 7% excise tax on the sale of all medical marijuana to patients in Oklahoma. 118. As provided by Section 426B, the primary and chief purpose of the excise tax is to finance the regulatory office and fund OSDH so that it may carry out its obligations to oversee and regulate the Oklahoma medical marijuana program. 119. OMMA has failed to regulate in accordance with the clear, plain meaning of the intent of the legislature that tax proceeds from licensing fees and excise taxes will be applied primarily and chiefly to finance the regulatory office. 126. Oh, I'm sorry. Go to the next page. I don't want to skip this important stuff. 120. As addressed above, it is clearly the responsibility of OSDH/OMMA to implement seed to sale and audit monthly reporting. The license and excise taxes collected must be used for that purpose. That's our position, and I think we're correct. 121. OSDH/OMMA is intentionally diverting tax revenue to purposes other than the regulatory of the agency or regulatory activity of the agency and are trying to shift the burden of those expenses improperly to Oklahoma medical marijuana business owners. 122. Importantly, Title 63, Section 426C allows for any surplus funds to be appropriated or apportioned for education and for drug and alcohol rehabilitation. However, it only allows use of surplus funds that exceed the amounts needed for financing the regulatory office. 123. OSDH/OMMA may not be intentionally or I'm sorry. Let me start that one again after a drink. I can't believe there's still so many daggone people. It's like I've received stars and then they go away. Are y'all taking stars away? You don't like my reading? I don't know. Anyway, keep going. 121, this is paragraph 121. OSDH/OMMA is intentionally diverting tax revenue to purposes other than the regulatory activity of the agency and are trying to shift the burden of those expenses improperly to Oklahoma medical marijuana business owners. I know you all feel that way, right? That's the way I feel, but that's what they're doing. 122, and I already read that, sorry. 123, OSDH/OMMA, OSDH/OMMA may not intentionally or unintentionally divert funds away from their intended purpose to other purposes, as such would be a violation of the Oklahoma Constitution and in direct contradiction to the statutory directives of the Oklahoma legislature. Paragraph 124. Upon information and belief, the Oklahoma State Department of Health improperly diverted in excess of $30 million collected as a result of the 7% medical marijuana excise tax to cover costs and agency expenses in no way related to the OMMA and seed to sale. I believe it's more than that, but I've got word it's $30 million that they've diverted, at least. 125. Upon information and belief, in an effort to hide its diversion of funds, OSDH/OMMA is attempting to now pass the costs of seed to sale on to Oklahoma businesses so that it is not responsible for covering those expenses with funds it no longer possesses due to improper diversion. I told you, I didn't play any games here, folks. 126. Upon information and belief, OSDH improperly diverted funds from the OMMA and used those funds to cover OSDH expenses related to office remodeling and COVID-19. 127. Pursuant to the aforementioned facts and allegations, the plaintiffs are entitled to and hereby request declaratory judgment determining that 1. The taxes and licensing fees collected by OSDH and the OMMA from medical marijuana licensees and the 7% excise tax must be used to cover all costs of Metrc. 2. That OSDH/OMMA failed to use the taxes collected related to medical marijuana to cover the cost of the regulatory oversight performed by the agency. 3. That such actions clearly violates the intent of the legislature for OMMA to primarily and chiefly finance the regulatory office and fully pay for the seed to sell inventory tracking system with those funds, including any monthly monitoring fees and plant and product RFID tags required by the Metrc contract. And 4, that OSDH must return all improperly diverted funds back to their intended purpose immediately. Count 3 of the lawsuit, second claim, declaratory relief. The OSDH contract with Metrc creates an unlawful monopoly. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick hitters here. There's a section of the Oklahoma Constitution. It's called the Oklahoma Antitrust Reform Act. It's an Oklahoma statute. 79 OS section 201 it goes into talk about monopolies in the state of Oklahoma, and that monopolies are prohibited. And it's our argument that by requiring 10,587 Oklahoma licensees to spend a minimum of $12,545,595 for the first year of the contract for the use of the Metrc systems and the Metrc RFID tags, the state, by entering in this contract, created a freaking monopoly. Plaintiffs requested that OSDH allow other companies to provide the RFID tags, but OSDH/OMMA refused. I did that. I asked that they talk to Metrc and asked them to open it up to allow other companies to provide the Metrc, to provide the RFID tags. They refused to do anything. Oklahoma's done nothing. The Department of Health has done absolutely nothing related to this. Count 4 of the lawsuit, declaratory relief, violation of due process of law by the OSDH/OMMA. Count 6 of the lawsuit, injunctive relief. And then there's a prayer for relief, and that's the end of the lawsuit. And again, I skipped a lot of stuff. It is 162 individually numbered. Let's see, you see that in there. It's 162 individually numbered. What we call paragraphs in the law, but it's 27 pages is how long it is. That's the full lawsuit. That's what's going on. So there you have it, folks. We are filing in the morning, so that's what we're going to get to work on. We're going to get to filing that. I might piss off OMMA and the Oklahoma Department of Health, but you know what? At the end of the day, and I'm going to say this for the final time, I tried to do this the nice way. I did everything in my power. Nothing I was required to do. I tried to do this the right way to preserve seed-to-sale tracking in the state of Oklahoma. I fundamentally believe that seed-to-sale is critically important in the state of Oklahoma. Fundamentally important for getting rid of some of this black market stuff that's going on, some of these bad actors. I think it's a vital thing. That is why I reached out and tried to come up with a solution as opposed to this option of just trying to shut it all down. And I was rebuffed. I tried the nice way. When the nice way, the easy way is taken away from you, then you go with the other options that you've got. So if OMMA, Oklahoma Department of Health, and a legislator, if you want to be pissed off at me, be pissed off at me. But I sat in that meeting. Travis Kirkpatrick sat in that meeting. Kelly Williams sat in that meeting. Cameron, the head of legal for the OMMA, sat in that meeting. Representative Fettgetter sat in that meeting. Senator Cody Rogers sat in that meeting. Chris Cotner, an attorney, sat in that meeting. Blake Johnson, an attorney, sat in that meeting. I was in that meeting. There might have been somebody else I'm not even thinking about. We sat in that meeting. I pointed all of this out then. I offered attempts at solutions, and nothing happened. Nothing came from it. So this is what we're left with. So going back to what I said again, filing tomorrow, going to ask the court to set a hearing. When I have that hearing date, I'll post it. Again, I need you to do two things, and this is absolutely important, essential. One, you got to raise money, folks. You just have to. We got to pay these lawyers. I'm going to need some other help on these things, and cannot do it for free. Cannot do it for free. I'll do it for free. They can't do it for free. I can't afford, quite honestly, to continue to pay them to work for free on stuff like this. So they got to get paid, because this stuff ain't free that's sitting around here. Secondarily to that, you got to show up for court, folks. This is a class action lawsuit. You're all involved, and we can't have a rally or a showing at the court where 30 people show up. That just looks pathetic. This is a big issue. This is your money. If you believe in what I'm doing, you've got to show up. And I don't care that you had to be open that day, that you had to work that day. There's no fucking excuse that's going to be valid that day, because I'm going to be up there donating my time for free. You can come up there and support what I'm doing and figure out a way to be there. Please. And look, again, I know some people have things that they cannot get there. They have health conditions. They've got kids. I mean, there's some things that you just can't get around. I'm sympathetic, and I understand that. I'm not talking to you. If you can be there, please be there. This is very, very important. You guys have been on my ass to do this. I explained to you why I've waited so long. It's the right call to do it now, not do it earlier. I've done it. I've kept my word, as I always fucking do. And here we are. We're filing this in the morning. I'm gonna take this home with me along with the check, and we're gonna get this thing filed. With that, that's about all the energy I've got left in me today. I don't even know how I had this much. I'm gonna go have some dinner now and go see my wife and kids. So with that, you all stay safe out there, and we will keep you posted. Again, please like and share this video. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, I love you all. I really do. I love this industry. This is like my favorite thing in the world to do as far as work is concerned. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work in this industry. I do. I love what I do. And we're going to continue to do that and continue to fight for what we're supposed to fight for. So thanks all, and we'll talk to you soon.